Hello, and welcome to Hopeful Conversations, brought to you by Robbie's Hope Foundation. I am your host, Kari Eckert. Joining me today is Lauren Beane. Lauren is a highly acclaimed TEDx and top 50 female speaker that helps audiences take the leap and believe they are ready enough by offering tools and her personal stories so they can embrace and own their own unique talents. Lauren, thank you for joining us and welcome to Hopeful Conversations.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So how did you get started on your journey to become a motivational speaker?
It's a long journey. I have always loved being on a stage. I grew up dancing, and so ballet, tap, being on a stage was basically in my blood. But my journey to public speaking was very interesting in the sense that I was very much a wallflower growing up. Never liked to be in the spotlight. Even when I was doing like solo routines on stage, I loved the feeling of performing, but even the fact knowing everyone was watching me was terrifying. And so I had finished up a college internship, and at the end of the summer, all of the interns had to present on a case that we had been working on the entire summer. And so we presented to all the employees. It was probably a couple hundred in the room, thousands online. And I remember after I got done presenting, I was sweating through my blazer, incredibly nervous, probably talked like an auctioneer, but it was in that moment that I caught the public speaking bug in the sense where I was like, okay, I kind of liked that. Like it freaked me out. It was terrifying, but there was something about it that I was really intrigued by. And so when I started my corporate job, I began attending marketing conferences, and I noticed that while I loved the content being shared on stage, I was more captivated by the person on stage and their stage presence and their energy, and wondering like, okay, how can I go do that? And so it was a long journey of taking on a lot of speaking at marketing events, and then eventually during COVID, moved into my own public speaking business. So it was a long journey, and it was a lot of small, subtle nudges of like, okay, I'm intrigued by this and getting curious. I'm wondering, why am I interested in this? Why does it fascinate me? And what can I do to explore that? So trying not to shut down those feelings and just thinking of it more of a exploratory, no pressure, let's see what happens here.
Was your background originally marketing?
Yeah, marketing background. So I would speak at a lot of marketing conferences, attend those, and now still in marketing, but also doing public speaking full time as well.
Okay. So, and I read a story about your lemonade stand that you feel like was important to you at a very young age. Can you share with us about that? And you got
Right.
featured on the local news.
Yes, I did. So I guess I've always been a little mini marketer. I mean, even when I was young, I loved to like play games in the car with my parents of they would do a jingle and I would guess the company. So I've always like kind of had a marketing fascination. But like every other kid, it's a hot summer day and I wanted to make a little bit of extra money for the ice cream truck. And so I've decided, okay, I'm going to do a lemonade stand. But because I was a marketer and because I was always so ambitious, I'm like, I'm not just going to do any ordinary lemonade stand. Everyone does it. What can I do that's different that is going to cause more cars to stop and join my lemonade stand? So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to give a portion of the profits that I get to the local animal shelter. Designed these beautiful poster boards, drew some cute cats and dogs, made sure that it was legible from the street, because that was one of my pet peeves of seeing lemonade signs that you couldn't read when you're driving by. So I was like, needs to be legible. And then I was like, you know what? I need more exposure. Signage isn't enough. We didn't really have social media back then. So I was like, I am going to reach out to the local news. This sounds like an interesting story of a kid donating to the local animal shelter. So 8-year-old me reached out, and lo and behold, I am hosting my lemonade stand, and the Fox 8 News car pulls up and does a story. So I was a little local celebrity for the day. I was walking a little bit taller down the halls of my third grade room the next day. But it was really just getting innovative and thinking outside the box and thinking about what is everyone doing and what can I do that's a little bit different than that.
Interesting. I'd like to pursue that a little bit more because marketing today and getting on the news is very different in 2025 than
Yep.
when you were 8 years old. And I think it's such an interesting topic, so understood by the general public. But we're not here to talk about that. What kind of uncertainty did you experience that you feel like pushed you to go for it, and what maybe held you back? Because about like being ready enough and what you're trying to coach with other people from personal experience.
Yeah, so I noticed I was always so ambitious growing up. I mean, I would think of a business, I would start it. The lemonade stand for one. Started a photography business in high school because I had a passion for photography. Sending out flyers for my babysitting services, again, doing something different than everyone was doing. But I noticed as I got older and was more in unknown and uncomfortable situations. So going off to college, brand new environment, graduating college, starting my corporate job, another new environment where it's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I noticed in those new situations, I started hesitating a lot more to go after those goals. I felt like I had to stay within this mold of what I thought others were expecting of me. I felt like I had to stick to this quote unquote script. And I started to really hold myself back because I was so afraid of disrupting this norm and these expectations where I would have dreams, but if it felt like outside of those parameters I'd set on myself, I would bury them. And it was a lot of burying, a lot of dreams where I would have it. I'm like, you know what? I am not 100% sure it's going to work out. I might fail. Others might see me fail. What would others think of me if I failed? And so if I didn't have 100% guarantee on those goals, I wouldn't pursue it. And as you can imagine, that's not a really great, rewarding way to live because it was holding me back at my full time job because I felt like if I didn't deserve the promotion, I wouldn't raise my hand for it. It was holding me back of this public speaking business because I dreamed of public speaking, but I didn't know if I would ever make it on a stage, so I wouldn't pursue it. And so all of that culminated in 2020 when, as you know, we had so much extra time on our hands. And it really gave me a time to pause and reflect on where the trajectory of my life was going and was I satisfied with that? And what I realized is no, I wasn't satisfied. It was holding me back. There were so many things and so much untapped potential that I wasn't even exploring because I was so afraid of failure. And so Ready Enough came out of that 2020 moment because I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was on a walk and had this just clear picture in my head of two questions, asking myself why and for what. Why am I doing this? Why am I so much more concerned about what others are thinking of me than pursuing things that make me happy? And if I'm not doing things that truly make me happy, then what's even the point? Who am I living this life for if it's not for me? And so Ready Enough came out of that moment because I realized we're never going to be 100% ready. We can plan all day long and we're still going to think of some hidden corners or things around, the corner that we don't know that's going to happen. And so the idea of waiting until we feel ready keeps us stuck. It keeps us in this perpetual planning mode instead of action mode. And so it was in 2020 where I said, enough is enough. Like, I'm so tired of just wondering and pushing these dreams down that I'm going to start embracing the idea of ready enough. I am ready enough to go after my goals. I don't have all the answers, but I have some and I have experience. And so, how can I start going after those goals when I only have a couple answers and I'll figure it out as I go along?
All the answers. I don't think we'll ever have all the answers. What do you think social media, how did that come into any of these thoughts that you had about yourself and what was holding you back and making you think you didn't have it?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I mean, you see social media as like a highlight reel, right? Everyone talks about their accomplishments. And so it's very easy, even if we don't realize we're doing it, it's so easy to see that person that's made it on Forbes 40 under 40, or they got that number one best-selling book, and you think they are an overnight success. You think, okay, they've made it, they didn't have struggles, but what you don't see are all of those struggles and failures and rejections that led up to that point. And so a lot of the struggles that I was going through was feeling like I had to have it perfect right out of the gate for that quote unquote Instagram post, showing, hey, look, I've made it. And if I don't, then to be quite honest, I couldn't pinpoint a single person that I was like worried about what they would think, but it was more collective. Just what would they think? Like, I don't know who they was, but what would they think? What would people think if I failed? What would people think if I, made a fool of myself, putting myself out there? But um, I can't remember who it was, but a good friend of mine had told me that it could be a blessing or a curse, but no one's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you. And that was such a huge relief and green light for me because I was so worried about what others were thinking of me. But honestly, people are more concerned about themselves. They're not really thinking about me. And that gave me a lot of freedom to test and do things because I was like, cool, no one's looking at me. That allows me space to fail and learn things along the way. So yeah, I would say social media played a huge part of it, but it was having to reframe my mindset and realizing that what we see on Instagram is only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much failure underneath the surface that we don't even see.
Yeah. How do we change that? I mean, maybe we don't need to change that. I love that wisdom that you got from somebody else. So like, no, everybody's just concerned about themselves. But like reality, like we don't live in this really in reality very often. Would it be helpful if people were more forthcoming with like, hey, I have these doubts about myself, but I still give it my 100%. I still go for it. I still like, I don't let my sense of, or my anticipation of failure hold me back.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. That's something that I really try to challenge myself to do is sharing about my failures because I do want to create that safe space where people realize like they'll see the fact that I did a TED talk, but they'll also see all the rejections that I got along with it. Or they'll see that I got this really huge speaking gig, but they'll also know that I had so many no's before that gig. And so I try to be really open. And I think the more open that we can be about both sides of the story of what people are seeing, it'll create more of that safe space and that sense of community of people understanding, okay, there are a lot of failures that lead up to that point. But I think it's also important to focus on yourself and focus on your mindset and understanding that whatever we do see online is not the full story. And so focusing on how do we want to write our own story and what is that script that we want to create versus what other people are creating online and following their script.
Do you still go back to those two questions of why and for what? Are they guiding things for you?
I do, but in a much different sense. I would say when I had those two questions in 2020, it was from a moment of anxiety, despair, feeling like I had reached a dead end. Now I use it more as a filter. Like, am I still going in the direction that I want to go? And I would say, like, my definition of success has changed over the years. It's much less to me about climbing that corporate ladder or getting all of those accolades behind my name. It's more about impact and how can I impact others. And so I continually ask myself, why is it that I do what I do? What is it for? Who am I doing it for? I have two young kids. So now my outlook is so much different than when I was single, living it up in Raleigh. Like, I want to create a legacy for my kids, and that's a much more powerful why. So I think why and for what is huge, but it's now I use it more as a filter for which opportunities do I pursue and do these align with my goals.
More wisdom. It's
Yeah.
funny. Life gives us this after lived experience.
Very much so. Yeah, for sure.
Goodness. Does everybody need a detailed plan? Do we need to live like great big dreams? Like in your coaching of others, like what do you love to instill upon others?
Yeah, I mean, I would say goals are very important. I am very much a goal person where I think if you don't have a plan, you will flounder and you're not going to know the direction that you're going. But I think it's also equally important to give ourselves permission to change that goal. And changing the goal doesn't mean you're failing. It just means that you have more information and you're steering in a new direction. So I think goals are important, but understanding they don't have to all be built out. The way that you get there may be completely different than what you had imagined. And you may realize along the way, hey, I don't think I want to do this anymore. You may have dreams of being a vet, for example, and you may go to the school for it. And all of these things. But then you get involved in organizations and you find this nonprofit and you feel like your soul lights up more with that work. Maybe you're like, okay, I have all this education that can help me in this new area, but I'm going to pivot and do this new thing. I'm going to work for this nonprofit and help them grow, for example. So I think it's important to have a goal, because otherwise you're like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know. And then what are you working towards? So going back of, what's your goal and why? Why is that your goal? What are you doing this for? Does it align with your passions and your gifts and your talents?
Goodness. There's a lot here. It's very like, what type of clients are you working with? Like age set?
All age sets. I would say I've worked with women that are straight out of college that are still trying to figure out that first step. You know, they're entering the working world and they don't know where they want to go. And so helping them get clarity on what is their first initial step. I've also worked with women in their 50s or 60s where they're doing their second, third, fourth chapter of their lives and they're wondering like, okay, I've done all of these things, but I want to do something different. Or I've realized that working in corporate for all of these years doesn't light me up anymore. And so helping them give themselves permission to pivot and let go of those expectations and what they maybe have been doing for decades, and finding what is that new passion? What is it that I want to do now, and move in that new direction? So all different ages. I've worked with women that are new moms and maybe they're stay-at-home moms and they want to find some sense of purpose outside of their kids, or women that are the stereotypical, they have everything going on right now. They are writing a book, launching a podcast, doing all of these things, and helping them get clarity on, do all of these things still align to who they are? And do we need to let go of some? Or how can we have a clearer focus and clearer brand on those things that they're putting out in the world? So I would say it covers all spectrum, but it all boils down to me helping women find the direction that they want to go in their lives, where it aligns the most clear with their passions, their talents, and helping them understand that they are ready enough to go after those goals, whatever it may be.
Do you find a common like barrier for women to be ready enough, regardless of age or what they're like, the chapter of the life that they're trying to figure out?
I would say it all boils down to mindset. The reason behind why we may not feel ready enough varies. Some may say, you may have a woman in her 30s that has two young kids, and she may say, I'm not ready enough because I don't have the time, or my kids are too little, or how am I going to balance all of these things? You may have someone that's starting off new in their corporate career, and they're like, I don't feel ready enough because I'm in a room with people so much older than me and more senior, and how can I stand out in this crowd? You may have women that are in their 50s or 60s and they're saying, I don't feel ready enough because I have been doing the same thing for so long. How do I know any different? And so it all boils down to that mindset of believing whatever you're telling yourself that is holding yourself back, understanding the root of that. Why do I feel that way? Is it because of societal pressures? Is it because this is how I've always done it? Is it because you feel like you have to, quote unquote, do it all and serve everyone else and not serve yourself? Understanding that mindset and the reason behind why you're so hesitant to go after those goals, and then figuring out how we can push past that. So it all boils down to a mindset of, I don't feel ready, and then understanding why is that and what can I do to change it?
What kind of tools do you suggest to change a person's mindset?
I would say first and foremost, like anything else, when you're exploring a new venture, is getting curious about it, understanding, is it certain lies that you've been telling yourself for a while? Is it things that maybe society or people have told you? So doing a lot of reflecting. Some people really like journaling. Personally, I do not like journaling. But I love going on walks, and I've found that some of my deepest thinking has been just putting earbuds in without music or anything, going on a walk in nature, and just having time without devices or distractions to just think. So finding whatever works for you to reflect and understand why you do the things that you do, and then mapping out, okay, here's my end goal, writing down what are all those things that I'm afraid of that is holding me back from achieving those, and then writing, how can I overcome them? Because having an action plan, when we have answers and a plan, we feel so much better. We feel like we can accomplish it. So just taking the act of writing it down, write out all your fears, no matter how silly they may feel to you. But once you have a plan of knowing, okay, I've been able to think on my feet in the past, I am resilient, I am adaptable, and then writing, here's how I can adapt to these situations and overcome whatever life throws at me.
Those fears. It's like teaching a person to be vulnerable with themselves.
Yeah. Which is sometimes the hardest, honestly.
Goodness. What have you, like, for Ready Enough, what's been your biggest accomplishment?
So I would say right now, Ready Enough for me is ready enough to write a book. I am maybe 50 words in right now, so not very far. And it's funny because I speak on this topic, but I am constantly having to remind myself of the very things that I teach. And whenever I do have a new goal, I find myself in that planning mode, the fear mode. So having to work past that. And so the idea of writing a book is very daunting to me. It's figuring out, what do I want to write about? What is the research I need to do? Who is this for? And I was getting so caught up in all of that prep and wanting it to be the perfect book where an editor is like, this is great, no notes right off the gate. And I've been thinking about this book idea for probably a year to a year and a half now. And I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? It's not going to be perfect out of the gate, but just write 10 words a day. And so that's been my goal, is very small, very minimal. Can I write 10 words a day? After I've written those 10 words, how am I feeling? Do I want to keep going? Do I feel like I'm on a roll? Sometimes I'll write for 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes only 10 minutes. So I'm just trying to do those little practices each day to get better and get that book out there. And then I can go back and edit later. So that's my Ready Enough goal right now.
What's your why for the book?
The why for the book is because I want to speak to women that were in the exact same situation that I was. I would have loved to have someone that felt relatable because, sometimes we read these books by Brene Brown, for example. They're incredible, but sometimes I think I'm never going to be Brene. Like, I can't reach that point. So I want to write a book that is relatable. If I can do it, you can do it. Like, I am a nobody from Raleigh, North Carolina. If I can accomplish these things, so can you. So speaking to that woman that is needing that little bit of hope and that push to go after her goals and understanding what are those things holding her back. So that's my why, is I want to have another avenue where I can impact people and help them find their goals and live a really fulfilling life.
It's a great why. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Brene Brown. Like, if we could, she's great. We can learn from her, and that's what the ideal that a lot of us hold ourselves to, and it's not attainable.
Yeah, exactly.
We can, make huge impressions for others, and that purpose of, like, you want to be beyond yourself, your why.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Goodness. What's next after a book? How do you, I guess, no, before I ask that, I say, like, this is a mental health podcast, like,
yep.
Mental wellness. What does Lauren do for mental wellness? Or what do you feel like would be helpful for someone who's, kind of struggling or trying to achieve, push, like?
Yeah, I would say, great question, because this is like, the mental health component is something that I have really been focusing on the past couple years. And so, as I mentioned, I have 2 young kids. I dealt with really bad postpartum depression with both of my kids. And I have found that for high achieving people like myself, it is really, really hard to admit when you need help. And you want to feel like you can do it all, figure it out, not needing answers from other people. And that was one thing I recognized when I had my son, was I didn't have all the answers. And that was a really, really hard reality to come to, of admitting that I needed help. And so it was very hard for someone like me to admit that I needed to go out and seek those resources. So I'd say, from a mental health standpoint, admitting and recognizing that you need that help, and there's no shame in that. And finding those therapists or counselors in your life that can help you understand what you're going through and have that safe space to speak. So that is something I still, to this day, see my therapist just to help me stay aligned and recognize when I am getting a little bit off course with where I want to go with my life. And then I'm an avid believer in physical health is a direct correlation to how you feel mentally. So I try to, not right now because it's so hot outside, but I try to get outside mostly every day. Even if it's 10 minutes in my garden, working out in the mornings, trying to do something to move my body and get in nature has helped me incredibly as well. So yeah, just figuring out those resources that you need to, if you don't feel 100%, getting to close to 100%, and then finding ways to stay regulated and stay in that place where you feel really strong.
Mm. Good advice. Very good advice. What about mentors? Like as a young mom, like I feel like I can reflect back of when I was a young mom and like the comparisons you make, and you said asking for help, like it's constant. I feel like that's helped me a lot, is to have someone with a similar journey, but like two steps ahead of me, and like just being able to like, oh, they made it through, they did this, this was helpful to them, this was not. Like, I feel like we just live in such a aloneness versus being connected to others sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say mentors are so important. I have several mentors. I have some for my speaking business, I have some for my career. I have a very close group of moms that I see on a weekly basis. And some of them are brand new moms where they have a newborn and it is their first kid. Other ones have kids in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And so it's a good balance of I can mentor some of the women because I'm a little bit further along than they are. But then also, some are sending their kids to kindergarten in the fall. I have no idea what that's like yet. So I would say it is so important, especially from the motherhood standpoint. It can be so isolating, especially if your only mentor, quote unquote, is on social media. You're going to constantly feel like you're a bad mom. Like you are going to feel like you're constantly messing up, ruining your kids, all of these things. And so finding people that it can be a really safe, judgment-free zone where you can complain about your kids, say a struggle that you had, have a really open, safe space where you can be vulnerable, share your struggles, and look to advice of people that are a little bit further along in the journey than you. And I think that aspect of it is so important no matter what area of life that you're in. Motherhood, starting a business, growing in your career, retiring, whatever it may be, find that group of people. Find some that are a little bit ahead and some that are a little bit behind of you, because it's sometimes I learn more from mentoring other women than I do from getting mentored. So finding that close group of people is so powerful.
People you can be human with.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Are any humans perfect?
No, not at all. But I've found that there's something beautiful when you share that with others, sharing your imperfections, because it feels so much more safe and fulfilling when you're like, I've messed up, and someone's like, cool, I've done the same thing, and here's what I've learned about it. So no one's perfect. But being able to open up and share more about that creates really beautiful, deep connections.
Yeah. I hope that your generation, I'm obviously much older than you, continues with that, because I feel like when I was a young mom, that was not like, and after Robbie died, like I remember like people just like, oh, the things that happen, like we only think that things happen behind our closed doors versus like sharing and being vulnerable. And it's not to one up, it's just to be in connection and like be vulnerable. It's tough. Parenting is
Yeah,
really hard.
very much so. Yeah. So
Very
it's
rewarding. Like I think it's probably, I mean, it's a true blessing.
it's just so important to find, even if it's just one friend, like finding somebody that you can just be completely like no filters, raw with, and sharing your struggles is paramount to being successful as a leader, as a mom, whatever title you may want to put behind that.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Oh goodness. Well, where can people find you, Lauren? On you have a podcast, the 50% Club. We didn't talk about the 50% Club.
Yeah, so 50% Club is a club I have for women. It's basically a cohort of coaching where women that are trying to figure out that, next goal they may have when they only have 50% of the answers. But you can find me on Instagram. I'm at lauren.beane. You can also find me on LinkedIn or tune into the Ready Enough podcast. It's where I interview other women that are trying to figure out that ready enough step. And we tackle mindset, parenting, careers, you name it. Season 2 comes out in August. So definitely check it out, but would love to connect with you all.
Awesome. Well, before I have to let you go, we end every podcast with the same question. And it can apply to however Lauren feels and wants to answer today.
All right.
What does the world need to hear right now?
The world needs to hear right now that you are ready enough, no matter what someone may tell you, whatever you may be telling yourself, letting go of those fears and believing you are ready enough. You don't have to have all the answers, but you are capable.
Wonderful. Lauren, thanks for being a guest today on Hopeful Conversations. I very much appreciate your time. To our listeners, to remember to tune into our next episode, and to all of us, remember to hold on. Hold on, pain ends. Thanks so much.